So, how are you doing, guys? Today we will be covering Python programming basics. We will go through data types, data structures, dictionaries, lists, how to create simple programs using Python. So we will get you up and running with Python in this stream, hopefully. I will try to edit this and release it as multiple videos in the channel. We will be using, as you can see behind me, Replit, which is a website that gives you the ability to write code in the browser. This is so much easier than writing the software in Visual Code or whatever, because you can after I share the files with you, you can go and edit those files in the browser, in your mobile, in your desktop, without having to set up your coding environment, which is great. And we will be referring to this great documentation by W3 Schools. We'll go through documentation, we'll create a couple of simple programs, and then we will start to go advanced with the topics we cover. We may go machine learning, Django and Flask, creating web development, etc. But for now, let's cover Python basics. So what's Python? Python is a general purpose programming language. It's interpreted programming language, which means it's not compiled. So to run a Python program, you would need to have Python in your system installed. You can't just run Python. For example, normal program in your Windows, they will be compiled and then they will have that extension .exe, which means you can run the program even if you don't have the programming interpreter. For example, if you built an app using C++, you would compile it and it would be in machine language basically, so it would be ready to run, in opposed to Python, which the code would still be in Python and you would need an interpreter to run the actual program. So first thing first, this is the first thing you do with any programming language, is you create you type hello world. So if we would go over here, so let me just explain the interface. Basically here you will write the code. Here are the files. We will just use the main.py for now. This is the main button that you click to run your program. So first thing we do is we print to the console. Okay, this is the console, as you can see. We print hello world. In here we go up here and we will type the word print and then a couple of parentheses, open parentheses, close parentheses, and then a double quote. Okay, so one double quote and then an opening double quote and then a closing double quote. So and then we type hello world. Okay, we've run the program and as you can see, we've got the hello world over here. So what we would do over here in Python, anything you write, right here needs to be Python keyword, but anything that goes into quotes, double quotes, can be any type of text you want. So let's remove this. If I just typed hello world, this won't work. Okay, it would raise an error. Why? Because a syntax error means there is something wrong with the thing you wrote. The interpreter couldn't understand it. But when you add double quote to it, it won't complain. Why? Because now it just it just treats it as it is. It does not try to execute it, doesn't try to run it. Oh, this is just a block of, or a line of text, okay, a couple of words. It doesn't do anything. So we use the verb, okay, or the keyword that Python gives us. This is basically a function. We will go how to create your own functions, but it's just basically a function. And then to call a function, like run the function, you give it a couple of parentheses and then you pass whatever you want inside those parentheses. In this case, we just passed this block of text, and print, what it does is just prints the thing you wrote into that console, also known as the standard output. Okay, so what is Python used for? As we can see, Python is used for web development, software development, mathematics, system scripting, etc. There are loads of things you can use Python for. But yeah, let's go. First thing you need to understand about programming. So basically in programming, I'm sure this is intuitive to some people. Either store data, okay, or you manipulate data. First thing we need to learn about Python after this printing is variables. What is a variable? Think of a variable as a container that holds data, okay? Let's create an app, okay, that print the sum. Okay, so it adds two numbers and gives us the results. So this would give us a great way of touching on variables. First, easiest way is you can just use this print function, okay, which we discussed, and then inside the function you can just type whatever operation or whatever equation you want. So so we can say, let's say first number, okay, so number 1. Now we're defining a variable, okay. So in opposed to math, in math, when you use the equality, okay, the equality symbol, it means you say this, okay, this number 1 equals 5, okay. But in Python, or in programming in general, most programming languages, this means you are defining this variable num1 and giving it the value of 5. So if we remove this right now and just type num1, which is this variable name, it will print here the number 5, which is the number inside this variable. A variable name has some limitations. So variables basically have to start with either with a character or an underscore. Okay, you see this is another error, which is telling us that number 1 is not defined because we're trying to use it over here, but the variable we're defining has a different name. So this is something you need to pay attention to. So if we copy this and pasted it here to use, like, to print the same variable, now it will give us the value, the variable, and would work perfectly fine. Long story short, variable names have to start with an underscore or a character. You can have numbers inside the variable, but it shouldn't be it can't be the first one at the beginning of the variable. Variables could be anything. Now we will cover a small thing called concatenation, okay, in Python, which is like adding two block of text or two texts together. So what if I want to create like an app that creates name I put? So I could say like this. So we could say greeting. Okay, we'll create a variable called greeting, and we would say, for example, good morning. I'm not sure if that's correct, but whatever. Now this is the greeting, okay, so we created it in a variable without the name. Then inside the print statement we could say greeting, okay, plus the name. So we're adding those together, so it prints the greeting. Now what helps us with this is you can now just change the name over here and it would automatically change under here. So for example, let's say Ahmed, for example. Now it prints good morning Ahmed. You see how it works? So Bob works too. Any name you put over here, it would print over here. That's awesome. Okay, now let's say you want the user to enter their name when they run the program. So you don't want to define this in the you don't want to find this in the code itself. You want to ask the user what is their name, and then you grade them. Okay, so easy way. There's another function called input, which is like the opposite of print. So let me show you. Let's comment this. Okay, so there's this concept in Python called comments. I can add a hashtag, okay, a hashtag symbol in front of the code line, and this code line won't execute, it won't run, it will act as if it does not exist. You remember when we just typed hello world in double quotes and then the app would run, right? The same way you could just add a hashtag symbol in front of that, and now this code won't run, it won't execute. So this variable greeting will not be evaluated, it will not be created. It acts as if it does not exist. Now if I run the code, you would notice I would get an error. Greeting, okay, name error. Name greeting between single quotes is not defined because the greeting in the line 3 did not get created.